Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Letters of Light. Today we are doing the letter Zayin. Okay, letter Zayin. Now, before we begin the letter Zayin, just be mindful that we spoke already about the first six letters. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav. And what we said is that each letter, the font itself, tells you a story of the letter itself. There's the word, meaning each letter has a name to it. The letter Zayin, right, has a name to it. The name tells me something. The way it's shaped tells me something. The number tells me something. And so today we'll see a little bit about the shape, because the shape part of it is super esoteric. I'm going to talk about it in the beginning over here. The idea that it's an expansion of Vav. Remember, we spoke about the letter Gimel and Dalet. We said that Gimel is Gomel. It's running after the Dalet. Dalet is Dal. It's poor. The Gimel is doing the Chesed. It has the leg in the front. And now for the Dalet to be the Dalet, it's different than the Resh, because the Dalet has a little bit of a chupchik at the end, right? So you have the Dalet like this, and you have that little piece at the end. It's got a little handout being able to receive. It's not looking at the Gimel, but it's trying to receive. When the Gimel and the Dalet come together, they give birth to the He. What's the He? The He is a Dalet with a little bit of a leg on the bottom, right? The Vav separates that system, and now you have this direct light, an energy between man and God. It's what God uses to create the universe, creating a void of space, that's Tzimtzum, of where God has to extract himself from reality. We spoke about the cube. Remember, like I said, there's 12 lines in the cube, and that 12 represents the Vav itself, the 12 lines of reality, that God creates a negative space where he does not exist. And in that inner space is where the universe that we live in is expanding into this other cube space. So these student spaces, and now we're talking about the Zayin. Now, the Vav is easy because it's a straight line, right? But the Zayin is a little bit different. The Zayin is a combination of a couple of things, because you have that leg, and you have that little box sitting on top of it, okay? So let's try to unpack the letter Zayin. So this is from the Maggid of Mezrich, okay? This is the successor of the Baal Shem Tov, and this is what he teaches. He says in the verse, Eshet Chayil Ateret Bala, right? The woman of valor is the crown of her husband. Okay, those of you that don't know, there's actually a custom on Friday night, aside from singing Shalom Aleichem, some people have the custom of singing Eshet Chayil. Okay, this is not from there. Okay, these words Eshet Chayil Ater Bala is from something else. That's in Mishlei. The Eshet Chayil is at the end of Mishlei. This is at the beginning of Mishlei. Now, a woman of valor is the crown of her husband. What does that mean? It alludes to the form of the Hebrew letter Zayin. Why? Because that little piece on top of the Zayin, that little block on top of the Zayin, is called a keter. It's called the crown. So now you have if you think about it, you have a Vav-like letter, and what makes it a Zayin is the keter on top, the crown on top. Okay? So a picture like that, like a box, that little box on top of the Zayin, that's what makes the Zayin Zayin. It's true that the Zayin is a little curvy, because it's different than the Vav, but it's taking the power straight in and crowning it with something else on top of it. And that's what he's saying over here. He says that the letter Zayin, the preceding letter of Vav, represents the flow of Or Yashar, the straight light, which is what we spoke about last week. Descending from God into the world. So the Zayin is shaped like a crowned Vav, reflects that light, or Choser, the returning light. Now, so what I like about it is because the Zayin is a little wavy, right? And you know from science that light is neither a particle nor a wave, it's both. Right? And therefore, the Zayin represents not just the light that's coming down, but the light that's being reflected back. Okay? So the Zayin is symbolic of this concept of Eshet Chayil Ateret Ba'ala. Okay? So he continues, look at number 2. The experience of the Or Choser, returning light, which follows the completion of the creative descent of Or Yashar, the straight light, culminating in the creation of man on the 6th day. This is the inner secret of the 7th day of creation, Shabbat. The Shabbat queen, we'll see more about this idea as well later on, who in Hasidic thought symbolized a woman in relation to man, is the embodiment of the verse, Eshet Chayil Ter Bala, woman of valor, right? She possesses the spiritual power to awaken and reveal in her husband his own superconscious crown, his keter, the source of oneg, serene pleasure, and ratzon, sublime will, which is the essence of Shabbat. Now, before I continue, let's unpack that a little bit. Now, this is a women's class, so I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this as carefully as I possibly can. I'm just going to say it. Women are different. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah midbaro. All right, so now having said that, let me explain what I mean. Okay, just don't throw anything. Okay, now, when let me preface it by saying that, of course, not all women are the same, right? When we talk about feminine energy and masculine energies, we're talking about like a template that exists, and obviously today, because the world is so interesting, there are men that have more femininity in them and more women that have more masculinity in them, right? We could say that comfortably. Okay, good. Now, this is the part that I want to get to. When a woman is dating a man, okay, when she sees him, she sees who he can be, not who he is. And this, my friends, is very annoying. Let me explain why. Let me explain why. Exactly. You can't change people. Right, now this is where it gets complicated. Now, she falls in love what he can be, but not who he is. And that's a problem. It's a big problem, because I would say that the majority of the issues in the relationship come from this misconception that she has. Who he ought to be, and what he is. And therefore, the Zayin represents this potential. That the woman has the ability of, if she knows how to do it, to bring out this potential in him. He doesn't see it always himself. But if she understands through her chokhmat hanashim, the wisdom of femininity, through bina, through this deep understanding of lavin davar mitoch davar, to extrapolate one thing from another thing, if she has that deep inner ability, she could actually transform him. Now, in a healthy society, we would be building a society where men deeply respect women. This is why, by the way, in every single synagogue, the women's section is on the second floor, right? Not because women are second-class citizens, it's the opposite. They get the balcony seats, they get the HL, the high-level seats, and they're supposed to be looking down. Actually, the idea of looking down is a negative thing, right? That men have to look up, which means we're putting them on a higher pedestal. And the reason why we do this is because we want to train men in our culture, in our society, to recognize that women are elevated and that they're seeing the world from a different perspective. That's why we don't want women in the same section as the men. We want to keep them in a separate section. We want to keep them on a different tier because they're at a different level. We want to elevate them. Now, so when a man looks up and he's aspiring to draw down this woman, right, her job is to lift him back up. But how does she do that without destroying him? That is the secret of femininity, I think. The secret of femininity is understanding that is that you're looking at something that has tremendous potential. A man is raw energy, passion, energy. How you mold that is very tricky, very scary. Some women do nothing, they don't care. Well, that's one way, right? Let the guy do whatever he wants, which is dangerous, right? Because that means there's potential that's not being expressed, which is dangerous in Judaism. Anything that has the ability to do something and doesn't do it, that's a negative consequences, right? But on the flip side, the danger of pushing is knowing when to stop, right? But what he's saying over here is that she possessed the spiritual power to awaken and reveal in her husband his own superconscious crown, his keter, right? Keter is not malchut. Keter is on top of the system. Malchut is at the bottom of the system. Malchut, by the way, is femininity. Chesed and Gura are all part of more masculine systems, but these are very deep concepts. So he says over here, our sages teach us, who is a good kosher woman? Right? Oseh ratzono shel bala, the one that does the will of her husband. I remind my wife of this verse all the time. She has a hard time remembering it. I don't know why. But what he's saying over here, this is a quote from the sages, that a good woman is aligned with the will of her husband. That doesn't sound very good. Well, in a healthy relationship, each person is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. In a healthy relationship, a man recognizes that every moment of time is there to elevate time. This is why Zayin is connected to Shabbat. The 7 is this idea of elevation. Remember, we said that there's numbers in Judaism that express different things. 1 is always the ultimate expression of 1, which is God. And when you get to 2, if I was to draw a 1 on a board to express God, because that's the ultimate one. Everything else, this is not one cup of tea. We spoke about this before, remember? Look back, I think at Aleph, you'll find it there. If you're listening and you're just cutting into the Zayin, right? Aleph is the ultimate one. The bet is the bracket. We can't go back to 1, it's already separate. But once you move away from 1, and I draw, if I had this was a board, and I was to draw God, I would draw a little tiny dot on the board, and that's 1. And the second I draw a line away from that, I have 2 points. But I also have a middle point. So once I move away from 1, I automatically have 3. You understand that? Is that clear? Because I move from 1 point, I go down, now I have a beginning, middle, and end. I automatically have 3. That's the Gimel. That's the beginning of Chesed. This is how Avraham Avinu figures out that the purpose of the physical world is for God to give us Chesed. He's giving us Chesed every single moment of life. It's Chesed. And therefore, the Gimel is expressing the one that wants to give, not an accident. G and Gimel, okay, giving, Chesed, okay. Dalid is poor, it's unclear. The He is the expression of God fulfilling his mission of elevating humanity to become closer to God, the world itself. Okay? So our sages say, this woman, a kosher, good kosher woman, is one who fulfills her husband's will. Chassidut explains the term, does oseh also means rectifies or elevates, just as it is written in the conclusion of the creation. Asher bara Elokim la'asot. What does the word over there la'asot mean? That which God created to do, meaning to rectify, to perfect, to elevate, to grow, to develop. That's what we are here to do. Shabbat isn't just a day of rest, it's a day la'asot. But isn't Shabbat a day where we don't do? It's true. We're not doing physical labor. We're here to elevate the physical through spirituality, through time. Okay? Thus, the kosher woman is one who refines and uplifts her husband's will, raising him to an even deeper awareness, previously hidden, superconscious dimension of the soul. That's what the ultimate healthy relationship looks like, when each one is aware of their tafkid. That can't happen if you're in a relationship with someone who hasn't yet bought into these core values, right? And that's the challenge of most relationships today. That you have people that are in a relationship and they really haven't had the conversation of core values. They have a lot of similar things, a lot of things they enjoy spending time with each other. They like the same foods, the same same movies, same songs, but that's not this. This idea of oseh ratzono ba'ala is a woman and a husband who are completely aligned with their spiritual mission in this world. How do I become someone who's more kind, caring, more sensitive? How do I become someone who is more loving and giving? How do I become someone who's more grateful? Right? If you're not listening to the gratitude classes in the morning, they're really good classes in the morning on Akarat Tov. Maral says, we go down to the number 6 represents the dimension of the physical reality. The 6 directions of space and the 6 days of creation. We had this last week. But 6 is not the completion of existence, for it pertains only the material. The world was not truly complete until the 7th day, the day of Shabbat, my favorite day of the week. Established, we're on page number 2 of 10. Oh, we have a long way to go. Oh my gosh, we're running out of time. Okay, for the 7th introduces new dimensions, one of holiness, the rest, and the connection to the divine. It is through this 7th level that creation attains its purpose. It's one thing to have the material world, but that's not why God created the world. He did not create the world for 6. He created it for 7. This is why the number 7 is distinct. It does not merely continue the sequence of 6, like Aleph through Gimel, right? It transforms it. Just as a cube requires 6 sides to enclose a space, the 7th, which is the center, the still point, the hidden essence, that gives meaning to the whole. In this way, the 7th symbolizes the infusion of the spiritual into the physical, the presence of God within the finite. Do you understand that? You have your 6 lines of a cube. The inner space is number 7. That's what Shabbat is. Okay, Shabbat is that inner space. And so the 7th day, Shabbat, is the crown of creation, the sanctification of time. Without it, the universe is a hollow shell. With it, existence becomes complete. This is why you have a world that is teeming with life. There's this deep appreciation for time and space, right? No other civilization. There was recently a study, I don't know if this is true, that says that an overwhelming majority of Israelis between the ages of 18 and 29 are Shomer Shabbat right now for the first time in Israel. First time in Israel's history. right? The first time is in Israeli history where the overwhelming majority of young people between the age of 18 and 19 keep Shabbat. That's massive. Wow. And they're saying it's a post-October 7th reality in war. People looking for meaning and safety and so on and so forth. But I would say they want tefillin. We don't want tzitzit. They want there's not. We can't make them fast enough. We can't give them out fast enough, right? Now, why is it happening? It's happening because at the end of the day, life is so short and precious. Where do I find meaning? Where does meaning come from? Why are we so hated? I'm actually doing, on my Monday nights class, I'll be posting it, I'm doing a whole series on anti-Semitism, on understanding it, where it comes from. I'll go through the 7 different ideas of where anti-Semitism exists, and then we'll talk about counteracting it. With what's happening right now in the mayoral race, if you're listening and you can vote, please go out and vote. Okay? It's a very, what's that? You can get early, yes, if you're a Democrat, and you can go, just do whatever you can right now to go ahead and vote. It's so important. I can't state that.
Anyone who wants the link, come see me.
There you go. If you can, do it, take care of it. It's important. Everyone's got to go out and vote. All right. Next. Okay, Sefer Yetzirah. 7 comprise the 6 physical directions of expansion: east, west, north, south, up, and down, plus 1, representing its own spiritual focal point, which means what the Maharal was saying is the inner space. What the Sefer Yetzirah is saying is the outer space. Doesn't matter. Meaning the cube itself is complete, and then you have the area the cube is in is 7. That's what he's saying Shabbat is. Okay, Maharal of Prague. He says, man stands at the center of creation, surrounded by a world not of his choosing. His inner being, his values, aspirations, and soul root is often at odds with the external conditions in which he lives. He is shaped by his surroundings, yet he must not only be defined by them, but rather he must act as the axis around which the environment turns. The number 7 teaches you, God bless you, this principle. 6 directions represent all that pulls and pushes man from without, north, south, east, west, up, down. But 7th is the point of balance, the center. This is man's task, to live from the center, from within, from the soul. The world may swirl around him, but he must remain rooted in the divine essence placed at its core. How poetic is that? Thus, the tension between the self and the world is not a flaw, but the very framework of human greatness. Through it, man reveals the inner holiness, his unique path, and his capacity to sanctify even the most external forces of life. That's why you're here, right? The world is wobbling, and you got to figure out how to walk through it straight. You have to figure out how to make things matter. The nature of a human being is that we're all pre-programmed. You all have a program. You have a baseline programming of how you think, how you see the world, how you feel, how you experience it, and so on and so forth. And that's awesome. But that's what every living creature on this planet has, a baseline programming. What makes your programming so profound is that you could choose to rewrite it. You have the power of authoring your programming. Choosing to say, I don't want to be like this, I want to be like that. This is what Torah is. At the core, what Judaism is this idea that you are not a body, that you are a soul, that you are your mind, you are the intellect. And the intellect, if it's refined properly, has the power of achieving a different level of greatness. A level where a person can have the deepest levels of empathy, can meet any kind of human being and see that they are an extension of God, that they are created in the image of God. That's what we're all aiming for. We're here to refine ourselves. We're here to become something more. The number 7 represents this material, spiritual change. Okay, Maharal explains that the structure of the world, 6 sides, every space with a central point holds them all together, just as the Temple Mount. Side of the Holy of Holies is the center of the world, so too man's soul is the center of his spiritual universe. The Even Hashatiyah, the foundation stone, was the first point of creation. If you don't know this, according to Jewish tradition, there is a stone, a black, massive stone. I saw it. I was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. What?
Is it in the basement of the Dome of the Rock?
Yeah, it's in the Dome of the Rock. It's called the Dome of the Rock because there's a dome over a rock. That rock, this massive, it's as big as this space over here, massive black stone. Okay, we believe this is the stone that was the first point of creation. It's we call it the belly button of the earth. Okay, and it's the middle point of the whole entire planet. If you put all of the planet together, what's in the middle of the whole puzzle? Yerushalayim. And the belly button of Yerushalayim is the Even Shetiyah, this stone. This is the stone, they say that Abraham brought Yitzchak on the Akedah. This is the stone that Yaakov, when he had his dream at night, and it was one big stone, it's this stone. It's all at this one place, this area that it all happened on. This is also that field that we spoke about, the two brothers that were each giving to the other and caring for the other. That's the same area that all this happens in. So he says that even the Even Shetiyah, the foundation stone, was the first point of creation from which the world expanded in 6 directions until God said, Shakai, Shamar Dai. The center is not merely a geographical, but existential. It is the still point from which holiness radiates. This theme is echoed throughout Jewish thought. You'll see this over and over again. The menorah in the temple had 6 branches from the central stem, symbolized by the Ruach Hashem. At the center, the wisdom and illuminating, spreading outward. Okay? The Ne'ilah service in Yom Kippur concludes with the community proclaiming 7 times, Hu Hashem Elokim, Hu Hashem Elokim. Hashem is God. Climactic affirmation of God's absolute sovereignty from the innermost point of the soul. The Vilna Gaon says there are 7 festive days in which the Malacha labor is prohibited in the Torah. The first day, the last day of Pesach, first and last day of Sukkot, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Each of the first 6 is referred to in the Torah as Shabbaton, right? Day of rest. However, Yom Kippur is described as differently. It's Shabbat Shabbaton, right? As it says in Vayikra, Shabbat Shabbaton hu lachem. It is for you. This is the day of rest. This is the day of expansion and creation. Now, the letter Zayin, number 8, stands not only for the spiritual purpose of creation of God's continued presence in the very aspect of Jewish life, but also his role as the sustainer, one who provides for all living things, right? What is the blessing we make after we have bread? Birkat Hamazon. Zayin over there, right? Zayin. Amazon.com is the... That's very good, by the way. I'm going to use that again, by the way. That was awesome. I love that. Okay, so he says it's in his commentary, the alphabet, the Gemara says that if a person studies Torah, gives to the poor, and sanctifies their deeds for the sake of heaven, as represented by the first 6 letters of the alphabet, they will merit in the blessing symbolized by the 7th letter of Zayin. If you do everything that you're supposed to do, from Aleph to Vav, you become a Zayin. Ki ata oseh ken zoneh otcha HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? This concept of if you live this way, the Holy Must Be He will sustain you. Zan umafarnes lakol. Right? He who nourishes and sustains all, from the mightiest creatures to the tiniest forms of life. The daily sustenance is among God's greatest acts of chesed, loving kindness, as emphasized in Midrash Socher Tov. He says, at the beginning of time, God prepared the world in perfect form, ready for human habituation. As it says in the Gemara, God acted like a king who builds a palace and sets the table before inviting his guests. Adam, the final creature, entered the world fully prepared for him, with food and shelter already in place. But after the sin of Gan Eden, God said, "Bezeat apecha tocha lechem." By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. You see the word of there, zeat. The Zayin is coming out again. Yet even in judgment, in this judgment carried with a hidden blessing. Though man must labor, God continues to command the earth to produce. And he instills in man the dignity and joy of productive work. In Tehillim, Ki tochel yegia kapecha ashrecha tov lach. When you eat the labor of your hands, you are fortunate and it is well with you. The letter Zayin then conveys a dual message: the reality of struggle and the promise of divine sustenance. It is a reminder that even a world of effort and challenge, God's kindness sustains all who labor with purpose and faith. So Zayin is the number of elevation. Think about it. 6 days you should go out and you should plow, you should eat. 7th day, Shabbat Shabbaton. So 7 is the synthesis of 6, of 1 through 6. On Shabbat, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be doing nothing that I do during the week. What is Sunday? Sunday is Hayom Yom Echad LeYom Shabbat Kodesh. What is Monday? Hayom Yom Sheni LeShabbat Kodesh. What is Tuesday? Yom Yom Shlishi Yom Revi'i. Chamishi Shishi LeYom Shabbat Kodesh. Why? Because everything for us is about culminating to this point of complete cessation so that I can have the flow of everything I need in the physical material world so I can reach a higher elevated spiritual reality. So this is why it's so important for children and young kids to be very involved in building a Shabbat table, right? How are they preparing for Shabbat? You're going out the whole entire week thinking about which guests am I having, what foods are we making, and shopping to make sure you have all the food. And then Wednesday, Thursday, depending on how organized you are, maybe just all on Friday, you're cooking and cleaning and getting ready and having this whole thing, so that for the next 25 hours, you have to do nothing. You can't cook. You're taking things that exist, right? We say that en bishul achar bishul. Once something is cooked, it's done, right? And now you could heat it up a little bit. Right? You're not cooking anything. You have your cholent hopefully on, or hamin, or whatever you're doing, chita, or your whatever else you're making on Shabbat, your hot stew, right? But it's ready. It's there from before, and therefore I'm using the whole entire week of 6 to be able to elevate into 7. Right? The Kiddush says this. We say this in the Kiddush. Okay? Where are we? Zayin. Okay. The weapon and bread. This is fascinating. The Hebrew letter Zayin carries a striking dual meaning. It represents Zan, sustenance, and Zayin, the weapon or armament. This is not a coincidence. There's another concept of Zan, by the way. You'll see this. This is fascinating, and it's not for now, but I'll just throw it out here because I think this is very cool. What do you think is the correlation between mazon, sustenance, and zenut? What? Zenut is licentiousness. Zenut is I don't know why I'm blanking right now. How do you explain it? Znus. How do you explain zenut? It's what? A zona is a prostitute. A zona is a prostitute. Zenut is the act of what the prostitute is doing at that moment. Okay, fine. We got that out there. Phew. If you're under 13, fast forward. All right, fine. So what is the correlation? Think about that. Every single letter and word is a binyan of ideas, right? So when I see a shoresh, 2 letters, in a word, I have to ask, what's the correlation? What is zan, right, sustenance, and zenut, or zona even? Like, how are they all correlated, right? I'll leave it out there for you to figure it out. Use your imagination. Don't get too creative. It's not that difficult. All right. Anyway, so all right. So he says over here as follows: the Zayin is the spear, right? It's the weapon. Okay. This is no coincidence. The Torah's wisdom reveals that these 2 concepts are deeply connected. Sustaining oneself in this world often involves a struggle, both spiritual and physical. Okay. Visually, the Zayin represents a spear or a sword, symbolizing the reality that man must fight through effort, resistance, and sometimes literal defense to obtain his livelihood and protect his life. That is what the Zayin is. The Zayin is the struggle. It's the effort, the energy that you're putting back. If God is giving us the Vav flow down here, the Zayin is what we do with it. Right? How do I send it back and make it bigger, better? Rav Shlomo Hirsch says the Hebrew word for bread is lechem. Shares the root as milchama. Go to battle. This linguistic link teaches us that pursuit of sustenance may pit man against nature, challenge or even his fellow man. In the post-Eden world, survival demands effort, innovation, and resilience. But this principle applies beyond the struggle of food. Self-defense, too. The Torah is imperative. The sages teaches that one must not rely on miracles, right? Human beings are expected to take initiative before turning to God for salvation. You see how big I made that? Why did I do that? Because it's so important to recognize that you have the power to make change. It's not up to God, it's up to you. This value is woven throughout the Torah's narrative. Let's see how and where. Yaakov Avinu, fearing his brother Esau, prepared for 3-pronged strategy. He offered gifts, prayed, divine help, and readied himself for battle. While serving Lavan, Yaakov applied himself with great effort, using ingenuity to earn an honest living. And in return, he was blessed abundantly by the sustainer of all. When Bnei Israel left Egypt, they were described as chamushim, right, armed. Shemot says that despite having just witnessed open miracles, they took up arms, understanding that trust in God must be accompanied by practical preparation, which is why yesterday I went down to One Police Plaza and I finally submitted my concealed and carry license. I got my conceal and carry application. So I could, next time you see me, I will be, not joking. No, I'm not joking. But I will be carrying, yes, 100%.
Is there any reason you're doing that?
Why am I doing it this particular time? I mean, well, did you see what I just said? The Jewish people left Egypt, seeing all the miracles, and they were armed. I definitely feel that if we have a country which allows us to be armed, you have a responsibility to know how to arm yourself. Okay? Now, for me, as long as we have a Second Amendment in this country, it's still safe for us to be here. The second they try to take away that Second Amendment, we have to move. It's not safe. That's the first thing the Nazis did. Bearing arms. Bearing arms. The right to carry weapons. The first is the freedom of speech. And then the second is the right to bear arms. The right to bear arms is what allows us to have number one. If you can't bear arms and someone else is armed, then you can't say whatever you want. You're not free to speak. It's only when the two go together that you have freedom of speech and the right to be, they go together. So yes.
Can you tell me you have a gun safe at home?
I have a safe at home.
Okay.
What's that?
In New York, you can carry.
Yes, you can. That's exactly what I just did. I went ahead, and you have to apply. They make it very difficult, but it's not impossible. I live in Nassau, so in Nassau, I actually already have guns in my house. Okay, I have lots of guns already. In Nassau, I take I walk to the gun store. I show them my license. They do a quick check, and I walk out with whatever I want. Not only large guns, not small guns that can be concealed. Concealed guns in Nassau, you also need an application. Now, I applied for New York City because New York City is Kolel, includes New York State, and this way I can carry from Nassau into Manhattan. And I also even got one for Jersey because it's so close, and I'm always going to be going back and forth, and I don't want to worry about having to take out my heat. Yeah.
I just want to know, are you advocating we should all get gun licenses?
I'm not saying that everyone should get a gun license. I'm advocating that everyone should definitely know how to use a gun for sure. Before you get a gun license, make sure you know how to shoot a gun, right? But everyone should definitely have a strategy of how to defend themselves, 100%.
I think it's more in Israel than
It's everywhere. The world is changing.
Israel is more.
Oh, in Israel, it's harder to get. If I move to Israel, I can't even keep my guns.
You cannot keep it?
No, not my cool ones, not my big ones.
But you know what? It's not guns that kill people. It's people who kill people. You see that?
Any cars kill people. I'm saying like planes kill people. There's all kinds of things that kill people. Anyway, that's not the point. The point that I'm making is that if you want to be a Zayin, you want to be someone who is prepared, right? Be prepared. That's it. We don't rely on miracles. And samchin al hanes. We do not rely on miracles. And therefore, if you see things happening, be prepared for it. You know, I remember, this is like when before COVID happened, I was reading the news in China. And I was seeing what was happening in China. So I tell my wife, this is in January. I tell my wife, listen, just do me a favor, just buy some extra rice.
What?
Buy some extra rice. Buy some extra toilet paper. Buy some extra stuff for the house. This and that. She's like, why? She's like, you're crazy. I'm like, just trust me. Just do it. And then I said to her, like, do me a favor, go buy eggs and chicken. She's like, why? I'm like, just trust me. She thought I was crazy. This is in January. This is before March.
What about rubber, the gloves?
Oh, I told her I bought masks. She thought I was insane. She's like, what are you doing? I bought these masks. I bought Velcro ones. They were washable. You couldn't get them afterwards. She thought I was absolutely crazy. And then COVID happened. She's like, how did you know? And I said, it's because I'm prepared. And samchin al hanes. We don't rely on miracles. And that means in order for you not to rely on miracles, it means you need to be proactively reading, understanding what's happening around you. I'm not saying to spend all day reading the news. You should definitely not be doing that. But there's no reason why you can't spend 15 minutes a day, go through everything you need to go through quickly as possible, find your sources, okay, and that's it. Don't go back. And then beginning of every day, start your day that way. And be educated. Know what's going on in the world.
What are you recommending
For today, I really think that the best place for information today is on Twitter, unfortunately. When I go to Twitter, it takes the news like a day or two to catch up to the cycle. The news is finding out about what's happening from Twitter. So I just go directly to Twitter. Now you have to be careful because online sources are often not verified. You don't want to come around screaming around about like all kinds of conspiracy theories. So you have to be able to take information and sort it out. Who's a good source? And that takes time. It takes time. So you always have to be critical about everything you see today because we don't know anything. I'm not sure if you're watching these videos that are being made. Some guy is using AI to make like, they're taking storylines from the Torah, from Tanakh, and they're making like what if Jonah was doing like a vlog of like, his story. And he's talking about, hey, I'm in Nineveh, and like whatever it is, and like I'm inside the fish, I don't even know, this is so gross. Like totally like a blogger, Ilu, he was there telling the story, and it looks so real, it's scary.
Yeah, right.
It's terrifying. And I want you to know, and I want you to know, as good as it is right now, it's garbage. It's going to get 1,000 times better to the point where you will not know if what you're watching anymore on your screen is real or fake. That's how terrifying it is. Right. Yeah. No, it's all. There are accounts of people who just have pictures of people that are fake. They're all fake. Everything is fake. They create an avatar and they're just like using this fake person as it's unbelievable. I'm going to do that for myself. Actually, I want to make an avatar of myself, and there I could just have the avatar give my classes and record it. I could have this background in the background. No one would ever know. And I could be producing 1,000 times more shiurim than I'm doing right now. No, and not only that, I could have it record my voice. And then all I got to do is send it a script. And it'll read it with the same intonation, same everything. You never even know it's not me. Yeah, you can do all of that. That's different. I'm talking about it doing me. Forget about Barack Obama.
My kids have their own voices recorded.
Oh, so cool.
Who do you follow on X?
Okay, we're not talking about X anymore. We're talking about Zayin. Okay? Fine. So, if you want, follow me on X and you'll know who I'm following. There you go. Anyway, don't follow me. I just do it. I don't know. Do it. I don't know. Just be proactive. Okay. Okay. Number 10. The letter Zayin, symbolizing the sustenance and struggle, reaches the highest expression in the sanctity of Shabbat, the seventh day, after 6 days of labor, which man engages in the ongoing effort to master his environment and earn his bread. Torah says, Shesh yamim tavod ve'asita kol malachtecha ve'yom hashvi Shabbat laHashem Elokecha. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Shabbat for Hashem, your God. That is what we want from the letter 7. Okay. Shabbat counteracts the danger of being consumed by the physical demands of earning a livelihood and defending one's existence. It reminds us not to fall into the illusion of expressed in Kochi ve'otze yadi ve'oseh li et hachayil hazeh. My own strength and might of my hand have made me hit this wealth. By ceasing from creative labor in Shabbat, the Jew affirms the true power and sustenance come from God. Now, it sounds like it's so extreme. Like, do I really believe? And the answer is that I'm going to get to a point where I really believe it's all me. And the answer is yes, 100%. If you did not have Shabbat, if you know people that have never even heard of Shabbat, go to someone who never heard of Shabbat and explain to them what Shabbat is, they'll think you're crazy. It's such a difficult concept. You're here because you're familiar with it and like, oh, it's great. Like, but the concept of like the Greeks and the Romans said that Jews were the laziest people. Who takes a day off? It's suicide. There was no stores to get food. There was no place to buy a shirt. Every single minute of your day was used to do some kind of farming or to sow or to build or create something. There was no leisure time. There was no procrastinating in that ancient world. But yet Jews took a day off. They're nuts. Who does that? But what separates you from an animal, what makes you aware, is the ability to pause. Stopping, reflecting. By the way, this is the foundation of gratitude, right? Hakarat hatov, right, means creating the awareness. Hakara, being aware of the tov, of the good. And if you're not working on building that awareness, you will never be grateful. The opposite is true. If you're not proactively working on being grateful, you know what happens? You become ungrateful. You have ingratitude. By the way, the word for hakarat hatov, right? Also, if you are not working, it comes the word kafui tov is what ingratitude is in Hebrew. You know what the word kafui means? Kafui comes from the word kefira. What is kefira? Kefira means heresy. What's heresy? The atheism, not believing in God. How does one become someone who's a kofer, someone who's a heretic, someone who rejects God? Someone who does not have a karat tov. Someone's always complaining, is it low fair? It's not fair. I don't get. That person is ungrateful. Ingratitude leads to kfira, or the rejection of kafui tov, rejecting of all good, which means that the way in which we are able to actually develop this closeness to God, the way in which we're able to get that flow coming down properly, is by having hakarat tov first. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? But after opening your eyes, what do you say? Right? So we do that because we start our day with gratitude. That's our mantra every single day. That moment of gratitude helps me feel, it humbles me. And I'm like, wow, thank you. I don't deserve this. I'm so grateful that I have this. I want to make the most of what I have. It's that feeling, by the way, when you make a bracha on your sha'akol, whatever bracha you're making, you're supposed to stop and feel gratitude. You're so lost in making, which bracha to make? Okay, sha'akol, right? That's not the point of that. The exercise is in the feeling the indebtedness. The reason why you don't want to feel gratitude is because you don't want to be indebted on a subconscious level, by the way, FYI. You don't like it because I don't want to owe you. I want to do me. I want to be by myself. I don't want to owe anybody. That's not how this works. Our human relationships work the best when each one recognizes that they are two parts of a whole. When they have the humility to recognize it's not about them, it's about the whole, the system, the relationship, right? Zayin is this concept of elevating ourselves from this lower state to this higher state. Okay. Dayan Grunfeld says, in the Shabbat, the rest is an act of homage to the Creator. Declaration of human effort must be anchored in divine purpose. That is what we're trying to do. Midrash says this in Otiot Rabbi Akiva, that God promises God promised the Torah would not be forgotten amidst the week's physical pursuits. For every Shabbat, the people of Israel would set aside, their material preoccupation to engage with the Torah, the bread of the soul, just as physical bread nourishes the body. Tikkunei Zohar, the spiritual rest, becomes the final and vital principle of creation. As the Malbim explains in this, that the week is incomplete without a day devoted to transcendence and materialism, a day of divine consciousness. Just as God rested on the seventh day, He blessed it and sanctified it, thereby elevating Shabbat as the spiritual crown of the week. Shabbat is the Keter. Rabbi Avram ben Harambam says the phrase HaShevi'i, the seventh, with its definitive article in Genesis 2:1, points to the very same seven-day letter commanded to Israel. A timeless day sanctified from the beginning of creation. Shabbat, the foundation of the world and the foundation of blessing and holiness, like the finishing seal in the ring. Shabbat completes and sanctifies the entire week. That is Shabbat. Zayin is the completion, the sustenance, seeing the whole and to come to a whole. The blessing of the holiness God conferred on Shabbat extends prophetically to those who guarded sanctity. The sages emphasize that the connection through a striking detail, the enlarged letter Zayin in the verse. Zachru Torat Moshe Avdi. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. The oversight of Zayin, according to Tosfot, says that the spiritual prominence of the seventh day, which not only elevates Shabbat itself, but casts a radiant influence over the entire week. Your Shabbat defines your week. The more you can make your Shabbat a Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat of not avodah, a Shabbat of kedusha, a Shabbat of holiness, that has a profound impact on the whole entire week. And the more you meditate on sucking in like a sponge the holiness of Shabbat and holding on to it, you don't realize it, you just make Havdalah. But what is Havdalah? Havdalah is my way of carrying with me the spirituality of Shabbat into the week. How do I do that? Ben Ish Chai says there's a three-tiered process, right? There's actually four, right? The awareness, right? The intellect, okay? There's the eyes, right? The candles. There's the nose, smelling, besamim, right? And there's the lips, the bracha, right? You have this awareness, this system where you're trying to see everything that's happened on Shabbat and you want to bring it with you. That's how you elevate your week. The week doesn't elevate itself. What are you doing to arm yourself with the spirituality of Shabbat throughout the week? How are you bringing that into the week? And the answer is you can, if you're prepared. Okay, so the Gemara says that the curved top of a Zayin extending in both directions symbolize the Shabbat. That what? That backwards over the last 3 days of the week, Wednesday through Friday as preparation, and forwards over the next 3 days, Tuesday through Sunday to Tuesday, as residual illumination, which is why the last day you could do Havdalah is on Tuesday. You can't extend Shabbat until beyond Tuesday. Tuesday night you got to make Havdalah. So you have this power of spirituality you're bringing with you both directions. Malbim says in this way, just as Israel's journey in the wilderness were guided according to the spirit of their departures, so too the way one departs from Shabbat influences the tone and the sanctity of the coming days. How you end Shabbat will determine how you celebrate Shabbat. Okay, I just want to fast forward a little bit. Let's just, I know it's really late. I want to end. Turn to page 8 of 10. Okay, I want to show you this. This chart, the word ner, gematria 250, right? If you add the numbers together, it's 7. Yayin is 7. Okay, lechem, okay, is 7 if you round it to 7, okay? Dag, 7. Basar, 7. You see everything we do on Shabbat? 7. 7 everywhere, okay? The 3 Shabbat meals, each accompanied by 2 loaves of challah, commemorate the manna in the wilderness. Normally, the Israelites received 1 day portion of manna each morning, but on Friday they were given a double portion. This is why we have 2 chalot on Shabbat, 1 for Friday, 1 for Shabbat. Zachor v'shamor. No man fell on Shabbat. Yet the people showed no anxiety or doubt. They trusted fully in God's provision, finishing each meal's portion without hoarding for the next day. For this profound trust, the Shabbat meals became known as Seudah Demenuta, the meal of faith. Okay? In this way, Shabbat teaches us not only to rest, but how to trust. How many people have anxiety about, like, when's my next meal coming? I can't cook. I can't. What does that mean? I have to be so prepared? I can't handle it. Each bite taken in joy and gratitude is a declaration of faith in God. The ultimate Zan umeparnes lakol, sustainer of all, continues to nourish the body and the soul. Okay? Let's skip to next page for a second page. Actually, let's just do this page, bottom of page. Yeah, vertical line, bottom of page 8. Okay? This represents a rulership, returning light, becoming the vessel of holiness. The head tilts forward, signifying motion, initiative. It spreads right to left toward love and awe, reflecting the balance of emotional effort. The letter Zayin is, anyone know what month it's part of? That's right, the month we're in right now. Zayin is Zaz, moving, right? No, the word mazal comes from the word nozel. Nozel means flow. How do you get the mazal to flow? You got to be proactive, you got to move. You can't stay still. Name and symbolism, weapon, sword, right? Struggle, defense, readiness. We spoke about this. The crown, ornament, represents honor, elevation on top of page 9. Spiritual refinement, right? It's gender alludes to the union and generative power, right? Both masculine and feminine coming together. To sustain, reflect divine providence and nourishment of all creation. You could do the rest over here of your own. It's all the number 7s. You see that the soul, let's do the souls. Right, the union of man and woman, spiritual harmony, a woman of valor, the crown of her husband. That's that partnership we spoke about. Sarah, the soul of Shabbat, feminine revelation of Kabbalah, man, the crowning ornament of creation, 7 soul archetypes, modes of serving God, love as water. We didn't do any of this, but Bezrat Hashem will do it again some other time. I'm on the last page now. Go to the last divinity over there, Elokut. Zan Uparnes, God sustains all life. 3 crowns, Avot, there's Torah, Avot, Kehuna, and Malchut. Right? Priesthood, kingship, and Torah. 7 eyes of God, divine providence that scans the earth in Zechariah. 7 Laura Sfirot, Chesed through Malchut. Right? Malchut. Tishrei is the 7th month, not an accident. Right? That's the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, divine judgment and mercy. 7 days of Sukkot, reflecting the 7 days clouds of glory. Hoshana Rabbah, 7 circuits of prayer. Simchat Torah, 7 Hakafot, concluding the cycle of Teshuvah and Torah revelation, my friends. This was the tip of the iceberg for the letter Zayin. I could do 100 more pages on Zayin. No, I'm not doing it next week. I want to finish all the letters. But at some other time, when we finish the whole system, we'll come back and review it, and then I'll add to it. Have an amazing week. Thank you so much for listening. I apologize for the delay. Sorry for going so quick at the end.